Today, I want to talk about the interneting. More specifically, I want to talk about how good moments happen sometimes and they generate good buzz for all the right reasons. And I want to talk about how a bad debate night for one person brought many to Jesus. Stay tuned. All right, so I was perusing the internet lately, and I think I saw online, if I'm not mistaken, it's on Instagram, where they were mentioning that a man named Wes Huff was trending because he was on a podcast with Joe Rogan. I didn't know who these people were. I know Joe Rogan, but I didn't know who Wes Huff was or what he did or in what realm of things. But I quickly realized that I needed to see this interview that he did because I spiraled, went down a rabbit hole, and now I just cannot get enough. So if you have missed it, Joe Rogan, famous podcaster, received Wes Huff, who is a Canadian historian and apologetic specialist, and he specializes in a bunch of things that I have yet to finish discovering, but one of those things is ancient texts. And so I watched the whole episode, and it really did bless me because it brought me to his stuff, to Wes's stuff. He was unknown to me, but looking at how many comments were under that Joe Rogan episode, which was viewed, I think, 4 million people, 4.2 million people alone when I was, looking at that interview, I realized something important might have happened if this was a Christian man on his podcast. And if you do not know Joe Rogan, he is big in the podcasting world. He has weight. So anything that he puts on, or anyone that he puts on his podcast, inevitably will go big for a good reason or a bad reason. So I watched it, and not only is this man, Wes Huff, brilliant. Is it Huff? I hope I'm pronouncing. Let me just double check that it's Huff. Yes, it's Huff. So not only is this man brilliant, but also he is very well spoken, which is important when you're trying to communicate a message. And he's also very much informed and educated in what he is talking about, which, of course, when we are on the internet, anyone can grab a mic like this, like I'm doing, and talk about a bunch of things that interest them. But every now and then you get people that are both charismatic in their ways, meaning they know how to draw the attention to them and to what they're saying for the right reasons, doubled with being highly educated in their domain, in whatever they're talking about. And this is absolutely what happened. And the big deal out of that was that he was on a podcast that doesn't necessarily promote Christianity or talk about Christianity, where we have a feeling, most of us, that people that listen to Joe Rogan on the very regular are not necessarily folks that have heard the gospel or have knowledge of of Christian apologetics. So it's a very big deal. And then while if you have watched it, you notice that when they started talking, they were mentioning a debate or a conversation with a Billy Carson, which it was unknown to me, still is, I guess, unknown to me. I was confused personally because I watched the whole 3 hours of Joe Rogan and Wes Huff, buddy guy, and he kept mentioning that debate, which was unknown to me. So when I finished the Joe Rogan episode, I went and looked at Wes Huff's platform, YouTube channel, should I say, and there it was. And apparently, I will not give too many details because I'm not too informed on who Billy Carson is, but taking the conversation at face value, it just looked like Wes went on another person's show to debate Billy Carson, who seems to be a self-proclaimed expert also on ancient texts or the Bible, or giving opinions on things such as Christianity and the religion. And from what I understood, Billy Carson, this man, claimed to believe in God, but had some interesting things to say about Christianity. So I won't go into into the details of the debate, but here is what I'm trying to communicate to you today. A lot of good things happened from those two videos, from those two interviews or debates. The first thing is that a lot of eyes went on Wes and Wes's work from the Joe Rogan interview and from the debate that he had with this Billy Carson person. That's a good thing because he does an excellent job on his channel of explaining things, apologetics, providing essentially really good resources for anybody who wants to get into it, but also defending Christianity with facts and with reason. So a lot of eyes went on Wes, which is a good thing. The better thing is that a lot of ears heard apologetics possibly for the first time. And if you remember from being on this channel or just reading, connected resources in general, you'll know that apologetics just means the defense of the faith. For anybody who might have questions, we as Christians are called to have the defense, to be able to explain what we believe and why. And on this channel, I have mentioned a lot that I believe that it is completely reasonable to believe that, one, God is real, and two, that Christianity is true. I've always believed that it's absolutely reasonable to believe that God is real and that Christianity is true. And so I was extremely happy to see and witness a lot of ears. Again, Joe Rogan is a very, very popular podcaster. His show gathers millions of people each time. And like I said, most of the folks that listen to Joe Rogan possibly have not heard apologetics, Christian apologetics, or if they are aware of apologetics, have not been exposed that long that with that good of an apologetic moment. And so that's the better thing. But the ultimate good thing is that if you were to go under that video or on Wes Huff's channel, you will see in the comment sections of his videos and his collaborations with other, content creators, you will see lots of people commenting very interesting things. Things like, I was an atheist for X amount of years, and I've now come to the faith. Things like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Christians might have everything correct. Things like, I used to believe such and such false prophet, but now I have been exposed to the truth and I'm really looking into it and enjoying my journey now. Things like, I, for the first time in X amount of years, stepped into church, and this was all triggered by me watching that interview with Joe Rogan or that debate with Billy Carson. And at the top of the show, I mentioned my episode, I mentioned that it was a bad debate for one person, but it was good because it brought many to Jesus. And the reason I mentioned that it was a bad debate night for a person is that Billy Carson, this man, like I said, I know almost nothing about him. I've seen snippets of videos of him. I've seen his explanation of what happened in his eyes on that debate night. But if you were to watch that debate, you will very much see, and very fast too, how uninformed or how ill-informed this man is, and the false claims that he puts forward as explanations for why he does not believe Christianity is true. And in a very short time period, we learn a lot of things. We, as the audience, I learned about the existence of a false gospel, the gospel of, I think it was called like the gospel of Barnabas, or then he mentioned the gospel or the book of the wife of Jesus, things like those. And it's always good to know that there are things like those that prevent people from seeing Christianity as true. It's always good to know that there are people out there, either because they're lost themselves or because they just are, con artists, who push things like those to millions of people, and then those millions of people are led in the wrong direction. And if you are a Christian, or if you are on your journey to becoming a Christian, you must know that truth will never be afraid of the light. Truth will never be afraid of being put forward, and truth will always prevail when it meets lies. And so this, Mr. Carson, the conversation that he had with Wes Huff was highly interesting, because we were witnessing in real time lies being debunked one after the other. And the behavior that this man, Billy Carson, had on there was an example for us to see exactly what happens when a lie is met with truth. And so I'm not saying this to condemn Billy Carson. Like I said, I know nothing about him, and I do wish anybody, we've all been wrong. I would like to also mention that we have all been wrong at some point. And what I hope is that, later down the line, he takes time to review all of his conversation with Wes and looks into what he needs to look into, and then come to Christ. We as Christians always rejoice when somebody comes to Christ, anybody at all. And so this will have served a good deed for the kingdom, because it would have opened his eyes and his followers' eyes. So no condemnation here, but I will say that it is a good example for us to engage with apologetics and to be eager and meek on stuff like that, because we can see how lies are easily debunked when we possess the truth. And so the people that were commenting, that me witnessing that really warmed my hearts, because it reminds me that genuine moments happen sometimes on the internet, and that a lot of people come to faith through apologetics. And as a person who, like I mentioned in my testimony and in many episodes, I came to faith through apologetics. I came back to faith through reading about God and reading about the reliability of the Bible, and reading on church history and the religion's history, and testing the claims of Christianity against my own beliefs and the world. And I started a series that is still available here on the channel if you want to look through it, of things that I've learned and my position and the beginning of apologetics, which, like I mentioned, I intend on continuing when I will be in the space to do so. But as a person who came to faith through apologetics, I can feel the excitement of anyone else like Wes, who reads comments of people that say, I was an atheist like 5 seconds ago. And by looking into what Wes was talking about, I came to faith, or I'm starting to think I might be interested in looking into it. Or even people that had completely abandoned their faith and divorced God, who now are coming back and stepping into church and opening their Bibles and thinking critically about things that Christianity claim. That's a good moment. And so by watching Wes Huff, I was reminded of 1 Peter 3:15, that is really why anybody does apologetics. And I'm going to reread it again and again for you on this channel every chance I get, to encourage you and to encourage myself to always just be ready for moments like those. And so 1 Peter 3:15 goes, who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good? But even if you should suffer for what is right, you're blessed. Do not fear their threats. Do not be frightened. But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience, so that those who speak maliciously against your good behavior in Christ may be ashamed of their slander. I really love this because a lot of things are said here, but one is that we shall not fear. When we know the truth, when we have given our life to Christ and recognized him as Lord and Savior, not much can be against us in the long run, really. And the recommendation here is to always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks why we have hope. And the answer shouldn't be just our thoughts and our opinions and our lived experience, although that's good. The answer should also be facts and history and dates and names and verses and things for the other person to look into other than our opinions or lived experience. And the reason why that is important as our own testimony, is that you will often hear folks that are non-believers tell you, hey, you're trying to justify the Bible with the Bible. That makes no sense. Or they might say something like, you're trying to convince me to accept Christianity as true just because you think some magic guy in the sky has spoken to you. Like, that's your own imagination. I don't need to be involved with that, and it makes absolutely zero sense. But the most beautiful thing about Christianity is that it's just true. It is just correct, and it's the claims are things you can prove, yes, with your testimony, yes, with your lived experience, yes, by the Bible itself, but also with proof outside of the Bible, which is what you need to speak to an unbeliever's heart and head. And again, unbelievers, they have reasons for why they don't believe, and we should take them seriously. And I think anybody who has come to faith can remember the period of time where they were not a believer and what was blocking them, or what information was missing for them, or what is that one resource that they would need, what is that one explanation that they would need. And so we're here to do just that. And I think the end of the verse is important because it says, do so with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience. And it's funny because a lot of comments under these 2 or 3 videos involving Wes Huff mentioned something that was so obvious to anyone witnessing it. But this man is so calm and so gentle and so respectful, and you can absolutely feel what many would say are the fruits of the Spirit by looking at his interactions with Joe and with this Billy Carson person and anybody he talks to. And that is something that is not easy. Sometimes when we are convinced we're right, or when we're passionate about a topic, even more when the topic is God, we might absolutely lose our stuff, and we might be forceful about it, and we might get really animated and want to talk over other people because we really want them to hear us out. And it comes from our love of God and our love of the kingdom, and wanting people to really grab the truth and just see. But I think we were all impressed with how Wes handled himself, because truth does not have to scream. It just is true. There aren't any tactics that truth needs. It just is true. It just needs to be spread. And he did it in a way that really concorded with what the Bible teaches, to defend or to give an answer to everyone, but to do so with gentleness and respect. And so I believe this was a good reminder for a lot of people that are Christians on how we should conduct ourselves when having discussions with unbelievers. And so the Wes guy and his interviews, I'm convinced, will make a great impact, all for the right reasons. It's making waves on the internet for the right reasons. I do encourage you to go check it out for you or for someone you know. I think anyone that you know who is still on the fence about Christianity, or the reliability of the Bible, or the history of the church, have them watch his stuff. Watch it yourself, but have them watch his stuff. And it will also bring you to other types of content, because that's how the internet works. But it's a really good discovery for me. I will definitely be checking more of his stuff and people that are, connected to him also. And so I think for us, really, it's a reminder, like I said, that truth is not afraid of the light, that we have to be prepared to explain our faith and the reason for our hope. But to have that faith and to have that hope, we need to be at peace with God and with our faith. And we need to be educated, and we need to leave no blurred lines or unanswered questions for ourselves. And so the job starts with us. The job starts with getting close to God, like I always mention, with staying true and not being hypocrites when teaching other people, with spending time in his word, with spending time in prayer, and then also with seeking answers for whatever questions we might have. Truth is there, but we don't have it all the time. So it's okay to say, I wonder what the answer to this is. I wonder what is the gospel of so-and-so that other people are mentioning that is not in the Bible. I wonder why this text or that text is not in the Bible. What does that mean? And so to be close to God, but also to educate ourselves, is the beginning of a lot of good things. So that's that. I really wanted to share that with you. Let me know if you knew who Wes Huff was. I didn't. Or Billy Carson. I didn't. I'm guessing you knew who Joe Rogan is. I found out today that Wes was Canadian, which kind of warmed my heart a little bit, because I am also Canadian. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, so let me know if you watch all of that, what you thought of it. I think the lesson, like I said, is sometimes really good moments do come out of the internet, and this was one of them. And we can be inspired to put some time and to put some effort into learning apologetics and making good buzz about good work. And this is definitely good work that I wanted to make some good buzz about. If you have opinions about Wes's stuff, put it in the comment section so that we can all share and read and get to know what others think. Like I said, if you know someone who is skeptic or on the fence about Christianity, I invite you to send him this and whatever is on this channel that is about apologetics, and of course the Wes Huff and Joe Rogan podcast as well. I think we could all benefit from sharing this, and the kingdom could benefit from sharing this. All right, I hope you are encouraged. I hope you get to have revelations come to you through this person's work, and I will talk to you next time.